Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Fitz Design Team Training Tuesdays. We're back again with another exciting webinar in our series. This morning's is Prom Posies. We're seeing a big swing in this becoming a trend where people are not, the girls aren't just ordering corsages and boutonnieres, they're ordering bouquets to carry. Fun, exciting, bright colored, fun flowers to use, but they're little tuzzy muzzies, nosegays, bouquets, handheld designs for prom. And that's a great and exciting news for us because it gets us out of that rut of always having to just make corsages and boutonnieres. It gives us another element to add into our prom repertoire. So I just want to take a quick moment before we get started and make sure that all our attendees can hear me and see me, because we don't want you to miss out on anything. There's going to be a lot of action and a lot of information shared this morning. So if you are having any technical difficulties, now is your chance. There's a little question box there that you can type in any questions or type in any issues that you might be having. Go ahead and do that right now. We'll get those taken care of and out of the way before we begin. And if I don't have anybody having problems, we'll get started. So Ashley, are we all set?
Yep, we are all set.
Awesome. Good to go. Well, again, like I said, welcome. We're really glad to have you here on this early Tuesday morning. I don't know where you are, but I hope you're not in 10 feet of snow. I'm here in New Mexico, and we're actually getting some snow this morning, believe it or not. So I'm feeling for those people out in the east where they're up to 5-6 feet of snow. I just hope that's not you today. And if you are, then you're in a good place to be right here with us for our webinar. Like I said, we're doing prom posies today, and they are a big trend. We're seeing it in certain areas across the country. They're really picking up. Girls are coming in and wanting something to carry. I don't know if it's because they don't like wearing something or they're just looking for something different and unusual. The method and the motive behind it, it doesn't matter to us. What matters to us is that they're buying flowers and they're coming to us, the professional florist, to have all their prom flower needs met. So we're going to start off. We have two projects today. One is a bouquet, and the first one is going to look similar to what we have here. We have kind of like a Biedermeier inspired, where we're going to be using all our spray roses in the center of the bouquet, and then we're going to surround it with our Alstroemeria. Now, as you can tell, I'm doing my projects in permanent botanicals. There's a couple reasons why I'm doing that. But the main reason I'm doing that, especially if you're one of our repeat customers here on our webinar series, is when I do them in permanent botanicals, I'm creating my samples for my prom display. If you've joined us before, you've heard us say how important it is to have a beautiful wow prom display, a bling buffet, if you may want to call it, so that you can show the girls coming in and the guys coming in what your creative talents can provide. The corsages, the boutonnieres, that third item, the other floral accessory, headpieces, ankle pieces, shoe accessories, necklaces, and prom posies. So I'm doing mine in permanent botanicals. So I am creating my pieces for my prom display. I'm killing two birds with one stone, making good efficient time of the time I'm spending here on the webinars. But we're going to use some really fun projects or products today from our Fitz collection, and I'm going to show you our first project. You should have some of our acrylic design chain. I've got the Tracy chain. This is one of my favorites because it's very reflective. Excuse the sound of the unwrapping of while I take it out of its package. But this is a great chain. It's lightweight because it is the acrylic, so it has a lot of movement when you add it into your pieces. It also is very cost effective. There's a lot of chain here for you to use in many different ways. You can cut them apart, use them as medallions, use them, as a chain so that it dangles and sparkles and reflects the light. There's just a lot of uses for our acrylic chain. Another item we're going to be using is our flying high. It's just our lovely feathers. We also have flutters. You may be very familiar with our flutters. The flutters have the rhinestone center to the pick, where the flying high is just the feathers alone. Either one works for this project. But I just wanted to show you some of the different products because I know a lot of you are familiar with our flutters. So we have actually two packs of the Flying High we'll be using, and then one of our foliages, which I just love our foliage collection. They really add a lot of pop and a lot of pizzazz to all your pieces, whether it's boutonnieres and corsages, wedding work, special event work. Our foliages are a great addition. And excuse me if I start to lose my voice. I'm battling a little bit of one of those colds that's going around, so I may have to take a few drinks of water to get through this, but I'm here for you to the very end. This happens to be our lacy leaves. Look at how beautiful that is. Intricate, detailed cut work in the leaf, and then it's accented with some rhinestone sprays on a very nice long stem. This is one of our favorites here. Okay, I'm going to keep this and set it aside because, you know, our packaging, it was also used for mechanics, so we use this to glue onto. We use this to put down on our table so we don't get glue all over everything. So keep these little pieces of what we would normally throw away because they come in handy every once in a while. So again, here's our first project. You should have some alstroemeria and some spray roses. If you have something different, that's okay, because basically we're just going to make a hand-tied little tuzzy-muzzy, little nosegay out of our flowers. And it's not going to matter if you use the spiral technique or if you use the crisscross technique for this, whatever is most comfortable for you. These are large, intricate bridal bouquets, so they're a little bit easier to handle and a little bit quicker to do. But again, we've got our spray roses and we have our alstroemeria. I'm going to go ahead and adjust the screen a little bit so you can really see up close and personal what I'm doing. And be sure, if you have any questions while we're going through these projects, to just go ahead and type those in, and Ashley is going to be fielding those for us. She's going to be directing them. If it's something that can wait till later, we'll try to get all the questions answered by the end of the webinar. But if it's something pertinent to what I'm doing at that moment, she's just going to kind of break in and ask the question. So please, if you have anything, we want to make sure that you're learning everything and you're seeing everything. So don't be afraid to type in your questions. So I've got my flutters, I've got my chain, I've got my leaves. I'm going to go ahead and put my bouquet together. And I'm actually just going to kind of use a little spiral method. It's the method that I'm most comfortable with. And as you can see, it works here even with the permanent botanicals, and with anything that you're doing, whether you're using the fresh or you're using the permanent botanicals, it's very important to prep your flowers in advance. So that means I have cut off the stems, I have cleaned up the foliage, so when I actually go to start constructing, it's easy for me to just pick up and go ahead and use and do and put it together. I don't have to stop and put it down once I have it in my hand. I'm going to come back in with my alstroemeria, and I'm going to just place those around the outside perimeter, and just kind of, you know, you can easily just kind of separate the stems so that they kind of make a little collar, and they're in a little darker pink or a little darker color, complementing color. Just kind of, you know, work them so that you get the shape that you're looking for. And once you have your bouquet, I like to use the waterproof tape to secure my stems. And I just pull off a section. And the reason I like to use the waterproof tape is because I know it's going to have a secure hold. And because these are, you know, if you're using fresh, your stems are going to be in water, you know the tape isn't going to let loose. It's going to hold. And it allows you to have a nice, tight wrap around the stems. Go ahead, tape it all the way down. And because the tape has a better chance of staying secure when you tape it back to itself, I don't let that last piece just wrap around and try to secure it to a stem. I actually bring it back up, and I've secured that little tail, that end tail, right back onto the tape itself, so I know it's not going anywhere and it's going to hold. So we have our bouquet. Then our next thing we're going to add is our feathers. Now, these came out of the package, just beautiful. They're nice and separated, but every once in a while, depending how long they've been in the package, they might be a little tight, and you can just easily manipulate them by pulling them apart so that you get a nice wide separation of the feathers. We want these to go around and build a collar around that bouquet. So we're going to just go ahead and prepare our items in advance so we don't have to set things down and pick them up. We know that wastes time. And when we're dealing with prom and we're dealing with all the hundreds of orders you're going to have, you want to make sure you're being efficient in your work. We're going to come back around and we're going to place those around. We want them to stick out. We don't want them to be tucked in. We want them to show they're an added element, they're being charged for, and the girl wants to be able to see them in her finished bouquet. So again, I'm just going to go around. You can see I'm just kind of placing them randomly. Because these are on flexible wires, I will be able to go back after and kind of manipulate where I want them to go so that I have really nice coverage all the way around the entire bouquet. So if I look like I'm getting something a little too close, I can just go ahead and adjust that. Kind of look down on the top of it when you're making it so that you can see that all your feathers, you don't want them sticking too far out to the one side and not enough. So I know I need to bring some of these out over on this side before I get them taped in. I'm going to come back again with my waterproof tape. Find that end, which is always hiding on us. And this time I'm going to give it a little extra. I'm going to do a little extra long. I'm going to start wrapping, just like I did. But this time, because I have this extra length, when I come back around, I'm going to twist it so that now the sticky side is up. And I'm going to wrap that all the way around, up to the very top, and then back down again over the top of itself. That's going to make it stick to itself. And again, when I bring that little tail, I'm going to come back up and make sure it sticks onto that other piece of tape. So that's what you should have. Now I want to come back in with my lacy leaves. I'm just going to set my bouquet down here, and I'm going to just kind of, play around with them a little bit. If they're too flat, we don't always like things really, really flat. We like to see some dimension. And these have their own texture to them, but you can actually bend them slightly, giving them kind of a little curve to it, a little more graceful than just a flat leaf. So go ahead, just hold onto the leaf and manipulate it slowly but firmly with your fingers, and that will help give it some new dimension. Then we're going to decide where we want to place it into our bouquet. There we go. We want to make sure that you can see those beautiful leaves just kind of gracefully coming out of the top of the bouquet. See how that just adds another layer of texture and a little glitz and glamour to the top of the flowers. The flowers are beautiful on their own, but just adding that little extra element of sparkle and shine really enhances the overall look of that bouquet. Doesn't have to be a lot, but just a little sparkle makes all the difference. Then we can come back in with some ribbon and cover up the stem. And by doing the tape like that, it makes the ribbon stick right to the handle. So you know that's going to be a secure wrapping on that stem. Just wrapping it down, wrapping it back up. I'm going to kind of look at how I want the bouquet to be held, because we know that there's a front and a back. We've designed it for the leaves to go in a certain direction, so we want to make sure that's how it's held. So what I like to do then is with my ribbon, I'm going to cut off, I got a little bit too much here. I'm going to come back in, I'm going to make a loop and bring this tail over here back. So I'm almost making like a little knot. Let me do that again here. So I'm wrapping it around. I have a loop and I have a tail. I'm going to bring that tail, thread it through that loop, and pull the knot. And I want to make sure that knot now I have a little tail, and now I know that's how it's going to be held. And then I could just go ahead and cut that off. Now, you see that little tail? That's how I know that's how it's going to be held. That's going to be what her thumb rests under. That way I can make sure the bouquet is being held properly. It's just my little, like, this is where you hold it. But we're not done there. Even though we have a beautiful top to the bouquet, we have to add a little more zing, a little more panache to it. So we're going to add some ribbon, some bows, and then some streamers, and then come back in and add some of our chain. So I'm going to set the bouquet to the side. And I'm going to make my ribbons. And I love the color combination we're seeing so much with it. It's that kind of corally soft peachy pink, excuse me, with the hot pink colors. So I'm going to kind of do the same thing with the pink and peach tones. I have a very soft sheer pink and kind of a peachy, and it's reflective, so depending on how it turns, it has a pink thread that goes through it. And I'm just going to make a couple bows. Some of you I know start off putting a little center into your bow. This is not a right or wrong way. This is just my way of making a bow. It's quick. I don't, with the sheer and the two double-sided ribbons, you don't have to be so worried about having that twist to always get the right side up. So I like to use ribbon like that. I'm making something because I'm being mindful of the size of my bouquet that I need to cover. So the size of the bow, I need to have some loops that are about 4 to 5 inches long or wide out there so that I'm getting a good coverage here. Once I have one, and I come back in and I add some of the other color, the second color. And how many loops, that is determined by you and the ribbon that's going to be used. I like a nice fluffy bow to cover my back. I could also easily come in with some Galix leaves or some Salal leaves or even some ivy to cover my back on this. But in this case, I'm going to use the ribbon to create a soft backing to my bouquet, so I don't really need as much fresh product in there. It's just a choice, but you certainly have a lot of options in whatever your style is. So I have some streamers I want to leave, and I'm going to go ahead and take another stream of this ribbon. This is going to be what I'm going to tie my ribbon off with. I'm just going to wrap it around where I'm holding it. Pull it nice and tight. Tie off that knot. And I have a secure. If you're a little concerned, go ahead and give it a double knot. But I find that this sheer organza ribbon really is a good way to hold that bow securely. Fluff it out a little bit. I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to make one more just like it. Get my other ribbon in there. Okay. Sometimes I go back and forth depending on, I guess my mood. Sometimes I'll do a couple of the one ribbon and then another. That seems to mix it up really nicely. Other times, like I did before, I'll just do one type of ribbon at a time. I think I like to start using whatever I'm going to use all grouped together so that it's already entwined in the very base into that little binding point. Instead of I find I have a harder time when I try to add another ribbon into the bow as I'm making it. Just for me, it's an easier way to do it, to start everything in my hand all together. You can play around with it and see what's more comfortable and easier for you to do. Again, certainly we've all known, if we've been making bows a long time, there's so many different ways to make them. I think what the end result is what's important. If you have a nice, uniform, fluffy bow, then you're doing it the right way. Okay, tie it off. And I did leave these streamers rather long because for two purposes. Once, I want to make sure that there's enough of it to tie around the handle of the bouquet, and then the excess are going to become some additional streamers. So it's a mechanic and it's decorative both at the same time. So I'm going to come in with my bouquet, making sure I use the ones that I've tied. I'm going to tie it in a knot on the one side, and then I'm going to take these streamers, I'm going to flip the bouquet back over and bring it up. You can see, here's the bouquet, here's my bow. I've tied them. Let me do that one more time. I've tied them on the back. Then I'm going to bring them through. So they're coming back out where the bow is, and then tie it one more time. That just gives me the assurance that that bow is not going to slip down. And I can come back in, because some of this is that wired ribbon, it gives me the opportunity to really fluff it really nicely. Okay, I'm going to come back in with my second bow. Repeat that same step. Put it on, come back over, around, tie it. So actually now I'm tying it here on top of this bow. Give it one good tight knot here. And then bringing it back around. And tying it again. So now you can see we have a nice fluffy bow. I love ribbons. I don't think, in my personal opinions, ribbons have never gone out of style. I think they're a great way to add fun color into your corsages and boutonnieres and your bouquets and even in your everyday designs. There's just so many beautiful ribbons and textiles and patterns that they're a great, just a great way to add a punch of color and some fun into it. You know, we've got a lot of these dresses that have like an opalescent. They may be aqua, but they have threads that run through them that might look like lime green or purples. And we all know it's hard to find flowers that match some of these unique colors, but we can always find ribbons. So when you're running into that difficult where you can't, you know, locate a flower that's going to accentuate the color of that dress and complement it nicely, you can always turn to ribbons to do that. They add a lot of motion. You can see here we've got the tails. But we're not stopped there. We've added that little shine and sparkle to the top. Now to complete the bouquet, we need to add that also down trailing to the bottom. So your eye follows that line from the bottom, very tips of the ribbons, all the way up into it. This is pretty, but it's just not quite finished enough yet. So adding this chain is really going to draw that sparkle from the very bottom of the bouquet all the way up through it. There's actually a couple ways to do this. I'm going to do it using the Oasis floral adhesive, but you can also, if you want to, use the dashes, the U-glue dashes to attach it. I just prefer the security of the glue because I know that's not going to pop off when it goes into the cooler or if it gets wet. I know that's going to be a secure thing, a little bit more so than the U-glue. I love the U-glue, and I think it's made our lives so much easier with its applications that we can use it for. But in this case, I just want to make sure that when she's out there dancing the night away, there's no chance of these little chains flying off on the dance floor. So I'm just going ahead. I'm going to move this out of the way here a little bit. And I'm going to cut 3 or 4 or 5, however many you want, lengths. They're just random. I'm not, I want them to be random. I don't want them all to be the same. But what you would have done is you would have sold this, either say you would have sold 2 yards of it for the corsage or 3 yards of it, and then you'd be able to divide it up and use it however you want. You wouldn't just be cutting randomly off this and putting in whatever. You would be cutting random lengths from a predetermined amount you have sold, because it's really, really important when you start adding these accessories that you charge for them. Every little thing that you add really needs to be watched and needs to be charged for. Otherwise, you're not going to make money. And if you're not going to make money, you're not going to have fun at what you're doing. And you're not going to be happy when it comes time to total out that cash register. So I have 4 pieces here, all different lengths. And this is where this comes in handy. Remember, I have this. I said keep that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to lay them all down on here. You also want to make sure, like you can see here, this one has a little bit of the thread that goes through that actually makes the chain. I'm going to make sure those are trimmed off and nice and clean. I want my edges to be clean. I've got a new tube here. And when I have a new tube, I want to just pinch the edge just a little bit to make it more of an oval. That kind of helps control the flow of the glue that comes out when you do that. And remember, if you've been with us at some of our other webinars, you know that you should never squeeze the glue from the inside. Hold it from the end, and especially when it's a new tube, just kind of give it a soft little squeeze, but let gravity let that flow out. I'm putting a little bit, I'm covering the one end medallion, not with a lot, but just enough that covers the entire medallion. I'll show you here a little up close here. So there's a puddle that covers the entire medallion, but it's not so thick that it's running over the side of the medallion. That's about the right amount. and I'm allowing those to get a little tacky. I'm going to come back in, and then I'm just going to grab the first one that I did. I'm going to attach it right to, let me see if I can, you know what, I'm going to readjust here. This is different when you're standing up. This is a good reason why you never sit down when you design. You just don't have the range of motion that you need to create some pieces. All right, and I really want you to see this, so I'm going to go ahead and take the time. So I'm just going to go right in here, and I'm just going to attach it to one of my pieces of ribbon. Right here is a piece of ribbon, and I'm going to put it right on top of that. I'm just going to give it a little squeeze. Make sure it's made contact. Pull it off. Put it back on. Now it's adding into the bouquet. I'm going to continue on with the second one that I've glued up here. I'm going to do the exact same thing. Attach it right to that. Pull it off. Put it back on. The reason I'm pulling that off is because I want to leave a little residue of glue, a little dab of glue, where I want that little medallion of the chain to be secured to. Glue adheres to the glue. Actually, I should be saying adhesive. It's a common thing for us to say glue, but actually this is an adhesive. And an adhesive is a permanent bond between two objects. And what creates that permanent bond is, excuse me, is the glue-to-glue contact. So I want to put a little bit of glue, and if I were to go ahead and take my tube and try to apply glue to the ribbon, I'd probably get too much and I'd make a mess. So by adding the right amount of glue to the little medallion, attaching it to the ribbon where I want it to go, picking it up for just that second, putting it back down, I was able to create that glue-to-glue bond. So I know that's going to be secure once it dries. And in my case, I am actually going to be putting all of my chains coming out of the front of the bouquet. So I have two over here, so I'm going to move over to this side for my other. I'm going to find a piece of ribbon, just pull it away, and then put it back down. Give it a little squeeze, and it stays on there nice and secure. Got one more I'm going to do that with. And, you know, it doesn't matter. I can go inside a loop. I could go on the top of a loop. I can go on a streamer. It really doesn't matter where you add it in. Pull it off. Put it back on. Give it a little squeeze. And they're staying nice and secure for me. They add, see how they add, I'm going to pull my screen up here. See how they add a nice motion and a sparkle that brings the sparkle from the top down through the bouquet. It was pretty with just the leaves on top, but that extra element of sparkle that dangles and moves will help catch the light in her photographs and when she's walking into the prom and when she's dancing. Those are the little details.
Are there any questions for...
Oh, okay. Go ahead with the question.
No. So are there any questions for Suzie before she moves on to her next piece?
No?
I don't see any coming through.
Well, I think that's that. Either I'm explaining everything really well or we've got a really great group who's catching on to everything.
I think we got both.
I think so. Okay, so that's our first piece. I do want to move on because I know I have another project and we want to be mindful of time, but I want to show you something else here. On my sample piece, I took the medallions and I cut them in two, and then I placed them on the tip. So in addition to the cascading chains, I've added just a little finishing touch to the end of the ribbons as well. Just another little surprise element. Maybe you only have the budget to do this for it. Maybe you have the budget to do both, or maybe you just have the budget to do one. Just options, different ways that our products can be used. It looks like a chain, and a lot of times when we see something like this, we stop thinking about the different ways we can use it or what can be done with it, because in our mind it's a chain. So that means it needs to be strong or hung in long pieces. But because these are easily cut, it's just a thread that goes through our acrylic chains. You can cut these off in ones, in twos, and add them to a lot of different things. They almost look like a little teeny tiny rhinestone brooch. So there's so many ways you can use them. Don't just look at it as a chain. Look at it as an element of sparkle and shine used in different ways. So I hope you had fun with that first project. Okay, our second project is a scepter. Just because we're calling it a prom posy and it's a bouquet, basically what it is, it's something held in the hand. And, we've got a lot of prom princesses out there. They're coming in and they want to feel like a princess. So why not show her something like this that will really definitely make her feel like the princess that she is. We have some great scepters in our collection. This happens to be the lotus scepter. It almost looks like a little bowl, and then it has these beautiful little touches of some of our leaves with the rhinestone accents that go all around. We've added some of our flutters, and we've also used some of our river of diamonds. So let me show you what you should have if you're following along. So here's the scepter. It will actually come where this section is wrapped and this is wrapped, and then it's all together in one bag. And then all you have to do is simply assemble by putting the handle onto the screw that's provided. You can see they have a lovely little finishing detail. So that's what the scepter looks like before we do anything with it. You have your river of diamonds. Comes in a lot of different colors. So depending on what she's wearing, you'll have some options with that. We have our package. Actually, I have flying high here, and I use flutters, and that doesn't matter. And then also on here, on my sample, is to add another little touch. We've added some little sparkle to the ribbon again with our dazzling dots. It's a little sheet of adhesive rhinestones. They're just a fun way to add sparkle. They'll stick to flowers, they stick to ribbon. If you clean off a vase really well, they will stick to a vase, but you have to make sure you get all that oil residue off. But they're a great little accent to just about anything. So let's go ahead and get started with our scepter. Now I know the marketing session that Dan is going to be speaking to this afternoon, or this right following my design here, not this afternoon, that's a different topic, is working with the schools and fundraising. And he's going to tell you how you need to get involved and how you need to become aware and familiar with who's on the prom committee. If your school has a prom queen and a prom king, this is another option that you should be offering them and making sure that they know that you can provide for them. And it's a great product. Here we have it for you. So you don't have to go searching for a scepter for the prom queen. We have one here for you. And we also carry tiaras, so we can take care of all those prom needs, whether it's decorating for the dance, and supplying the items for the prom king and queen, and then all to the dance attendees. So Fitz Design really is really diverse in what we're able to offer for all your prom needs. So anyways, what we're going to do here, we're just going to cut off a section, and we're going to have to measure it because we want the bottom to be finished. So I always place the River of Diamonds at the end, and then I measure it to the top here. Because this is going to be covered with ribbons, I don't have to worry that if the piece doesn't, depending on the length of the actual stem of the scepter, sometimes it's not going to fit all the way flush to the top here. But since this is going to be covered with ribbon, if it's a little, a hairline down farther, it's okay. But I want to make sure this goes right to the end. I don't want it to, come up here and look unfinished. So I'm going to do my measurement from there up to here, and then just cut it. So I have that. And this is another thing where you can use, excuse me, you can use the floral adhesive to do this, or you can use the U-glue dashes. I have found that the adhesive holds it tighter and more evenly, but it is very messy because, of course, this is a mesh. The glue will seep through, so if you put too much glue up on your stem, it will ooze through, so it's really kind of a learned technique. So for the sake of time and cleanliness today, I'm going to go ahead and use the dashes, and I'm just going to start at the very bottom. Now, you notice on the dash there's one side that has just the paper where the dash doesn't go all the way over, and here the dash goes all the way to the end. You want to make sure you want to have that sticky all the way to the very tip on that. So when you put your first one on, the little place where the paper to pull is up, and it sticks right down to your little, to the little rhinestone accent there. I'm going to go ahead and just continue putting them all the way up. They don't have to be touching each other. Just randomly spaced. And then up at the top, do the same thing that you did at the bottom, because you want to make sure you have, wherever this is going to end, you want to make sure it has that stick. So now that I have them on there, I can go ahead and peel off my paper. This is always the hardest thing for me, is getting that peeled off. And one more. Okay. Now that I have that, I'm going to come back and I'm going to go ahead and attach. And make sure you can see what you're doing here. Just go ahead and now you see we still have this much that we're just going to continue to wrap around. And we're going to use our dashes again to secure that. Except this time we do have to be a little closer in putting them, otherwise you'll have gaps where it could get caught, or it doesn't lay flat. So we want to make sure that's finished looking. So we'll come back in, add some more. These are going to be a little closer, like I said. Now, if there's any of you who are joining us who are new to using the floral adhesive, I would encourage you to, before the prom season gets underway, to do some practice with that. Get him out of the way. There we go. I think they've got it taken care of. I think everyone's with me again. At least I hope so. Okay, there's one bow. I'll go ahead and make my second bow. It's a little too big of loops. You know, at the end of our webinars, we do have a survey that we put out. We have a few questions we'd like you to answer. We really sincerely would appreciate it if you would take the time to answer those questions. It helps us know what you're looking for. It helps us when we're developing new products to know what we need to be for. It's really important to us that we get your feedback. So if you would, I would ask, please take a moment or two. I believe it comes up when the webinar ends. You have an opportunity to take the survey. And then also, again, I believe in your follow-up email, you'll receive an email just kind of as a quick follow-up saying thank you for attending. Tomorrow you'll receive that. You have the chance to take the survey during that email as well. But if you would, we would certainly appreciate it because we want to have your feedback. Okay, so I have my two bows. Boom, boom. And then I need to make one more little small bow. And we're going to put that down in the center, just to kind of cover that and to give us, again, something to glue into. So it's not going to be a real large bow. Just a little tiny, a few loops. As remember, I said we're really using the bow as a mechanic to help us glue our flowers. It's kind of our foundation or our base. So we're going to go in here, get this done. So it's just a little base here. All right, now we're ready to start constructing. So I'm going to take our scepter and we're going to take the ribbon and we're going to do similar to what we did with our bouquet. We're going to come here, we're going to tie it. Boom, and then I'm going to bring it back around, tie it again so I know it's nice and secure. And here I go, I tie it again around the front, and it's nice and secure. So, and that's what we're starting to look at now. Honestly, it's almost completely done. You can see it's transforming, but look at how fun that is. You could even just leave it and put a nice pretty flower down in there, even just add a little more ribbon. Of course, you know, we're all about taking it to the next level, but that's pretty just as it is. You have a beautiful scepter. You could actually just add a brooch down to cover that little plate, and you would have a finished piece with the scepter, a brooch, and the ribbons as well. So as you can see, it's just a lot of uses to it. But for what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and cover this up here. I just want to cover that plate. And this is another area where if you wanted to, you could go ahead and use some of the dashes to attach the bow, put them in there, and then we'll attach that right to it. The one thing we find with a metal surface, because it's not porous, the glue takes longer to set up, to hold, to dry. And so when we're in a hurry and when we have a lot to do and we want to be efficient in production, these the dashes, the glue dashes, have really afforded us the ability to secure items and be quick and fast. Except I got to get my chubby fingers in here to get the paper off. That's the hardest part. There we go. The trick is finding that end. Oh, what's that coming off? There we go. So now we have our bow. We've got the dashes right on that little metal plate in there, and we're just going to go ahead and stick that down in there, nice and tight. Now I'm going to have to excuse myself. My flowers actually fell, so I can't reach them. So I'm going to have to quickly just go and get them. I'll be right back. Okay, that was quick. Little product malfunction there. Okay, so there we are. Now for this project, we've told you to go ahead and have some alstroemeria. You could use some spray roses. You can use really just about anything. Type of dendrobium orchids. Anything really will work into the ribbons. You just have to glue them into your ribbons. I'm getting my flowers prepped. I'm going to go ahead and bring out my little piece of packing material here, because it's really going to be important. I want to be able to get these all prepped in advance. That's what makes you efficient, is getting the glue. And you know, I know I'm using permanent botanicals, but you can see I'm still being mindful and making sure where that would have been cut is glued over. You know, good practices are good practices. Just because you're using a different type of product doesn't mean you can't follow the same mechanical practices, so that it just becomes habit when you do use fresh flowers. And I'm doing them in advance, and doing them in advance allows that glue to get a little tacky, so when I go to put it into my piece, it's a little easier. They'll stay quicker. I won't have that movement where they might want to flop or not stick in there completely. We get everything prepped, and again, you can see I'm really just tipping the glue up and letting it run out naturally. It's a full tube, brand new tube, so gravity pulls that glue right out of there. I'm not really, but I'm holding it down at the end, and you can see there's a nice, all that stem, that cut, everything is covered. And now I can come back in and start gluing in my flowers. And I'm going to just kind of separate that ribbon. I'm going to put the flower in. I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to put it right back in where it was. So now I have a little dab of glue where that flower was, and when I pulled it back out and put it back in, and it's staying secure. It's not staying secure because it's a permanent botanical. It's staying secure because we applied the right amount of glue, and we made sure it had glue-to-glue adhesion. My next blossom, stick it in there, pull it away, and you know, I'm doing it a little more exaggerated just for the webinar and so that you can really see what I'm doing. It's really a quick process when you're doing it for yourself, when you're doing production work. I mean, it's really that quick. Want to make sure we have one down here in the center. Pull it back out, put it back in, make sure it holds. Come back in with a few of the buds. Okay, there we have our flowers added into our ribbons. But we're not done there yet. Again, we want to add a few more elements, a little more bedazzle to it. So we're going to take some of the River of Diamonds. I'm just going to cut off a length. I don't want it to be too long, but I want it to be almost as long as the actual handle on there. And I'm going to cut it into strips of 2. Now the reason I'm doing this is there's a certain effect I want to achieve. And I'm actually, when it's all said and done, I'm going to cut these again, but this is the first step. If you can notice in the sample here, this is the little fringes of the River of Diamonds. And I've cut them into 1s because I just like that wispy little sparkle, that little movement it creates. It's ethereal almost. It's just a little touch of glitter and glitz. And sometimes by having a double, it's a little bit too much. But I want there to be that double because I want to have a larger gluing base. So I cut it double, and then I come back and I cut it up again. And there's actually a little shortcut to doing this. It works best on a work table, not something where you have a tablecloth down. And you actually will just take your knife. Let's see if I can do it here with this. Hold it. I put my knife right down on the table, holding it, and then I'm just going to pull the River of Diamonds through, and it slices it. Now that doesn't work always as well for singles, only because sometimes you need that tension, but you can see it makes it really quick and easy. Where cutting it is a little more precise, but it takes a little bit longer. But you certainly want to make sure that you're doing that on a surface you don't care that you stick your knife into. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish this one like this. All right, there's another one. So again, just put it in between on the little threads. Get it started and pull. You do have to have a sharp knife in order to do that. And just for safety, you may want to watch your fingers and cut off that last little bit, but just stick it in there. Boom. It's a lot less time than having to cut all those. So this is what I have. I have this double up here because I want a larger base to put my glue on. See, I want to be able to glue onto that. Where if I was just gluing onto this, it wouldn't be as much glue. So I want to make sure I have a good mechanic, a good sound connection there with the glue to the. But I have these lovely little fringe streamers. And I'm going to come back in and I'm just going to add my glue to these. Black on black, I know it's hard to see, I'm sorry. Add my glue. This is another disadvantage of sitting down when you design, but we'll make do. Okay. One more, get the glue on there. Okay, set my glue aside and come back in. Oh, don't fall off the table. All right, here we go. Now we're going to add these in same way we did to the posy that we did, the bouquet. We're just going to come back in and we're going to glue this right to the ribbon. Touch, pull away, and put it back on.
Susie, what about that same idea, but if it were 3 or 5 rows and you did a braid on that River of Diamonds look?
A braid on it? Oh, wow. Great idea. That would be fun. That'd be a great texture, different texture to it. I think that's a great idea. Another thing to do with this, and I started it and then I didn't because I liked the wispiness, but you can take it when it's the two. You can take it when it's the two pieces like this. Well, actually not like this. When it's just the two, I'll just show you a quick. Yeah, I've got some time here, so I'll be good. So when you have the two pieces, like this, you can actually go ahead and run a bead of glue right down the back of it, fold it over, and then it becomes two-sided. This is what I did here with this. It became two-sided. So that way, no matter what, you're getting that sparkle and shine on both sides. It creates a little thicker band, and I will tell you, if you overglue it, it's going to be messy, and you're going to have, because when you go to push it together, that glue is going to kind of ooze out, and you will get sticky fingers. But it's a great way to kind of have a cost-effective band of rhinestones. And use it. You can use it to wrap things. You can, like Dan said, this would be a great if it were braided. That would be beautiful if it were braided. So a lot of different ways you can use that.
Could you use the U-glue dashes for that fold over, or are they too wide?
For the if you're folding over several pieces, you could, but when you're folding it over for the single, it's a little too big, and then you have to do a lot of cutting. So the glue actually works good. The only thing, like I said, it's messy. So if you have a, the makeup remover wipes that you can get that remove your makeup, and they're in their little pouch and they're the little wipes. If you have those sitting at your desk, you can use those to clean the glue off your hands. They work really good. It must be the oil in it, but it dissolves the glue. So have those sitting at your desk when you're using a lot of glue, and you will have clean hands at the end of the day.
We've also had people tell us that baby wipes work well for that also.
I think it's probably the same product. They just probably named it two different things, because I don't know how many women want to use a baby wipe on their face, but I'm sure it's the exact same product. Whatever's in there that has that oil, it's probably a baby oil that's in there. But see, now you see how that just added some sparkle and shine all the way around. It helps pick up the reflection of the handle, and it moves so gracefully when she walks and dances. And then last but not least, we want to add some of our feathers. And go ahead and cut off the stem. I like to leave a little bit of that stem on there. And then just fold it back up. See, I just fold the stem back up in there. I can get rid of that so you can see. That creates a little bit larger gluing platform for me. I'll put my glue. Now with the feathers, I don't always like to glue in advance and set them down, because I'm just klutzy, and the feathers have a tendency to find their way to the glue. So I usually don't do those all at once, but you certainly could if you're a little neater designer than I am. And in this case, I want them all to come off to one side. So again, I'm just going to kind of split my ribbon, stick it in there, pull it out, put it in there, and I'm just going to kind of give it a little squeeze, just to make sure that it's got some good adhesion in there, that it's being secured. And then turn it over again. Add that in, pull it out, put it back in, squeeze the ribbon together. Because I don't want it to look real flat, I want there to be dimension to it. This last one is going to actually go up inside the bowl of the scepter. It's going to come up in here. Stick it in, pull it out, push it back in, and squeeze the ribbon to it. And there we have our Prom Posy scepter. It's fun, it's easy, it's sure to be a hit with all your prom girls. You certainly should be offering those items to the prom goer. There's a couple other here's another little nosegay I did. It's just a simple rose nosegay. I think there's 8 roses in there. And we've added just a couple of our brooches to it, to the top of it. It's very simple, but what an elegant way, along with a few of the feathers. We've done the ribbon with the sparkle on it, with a little dash of glitter on it. I've taken the Amazing Wraps and used it as a band to cover my binding point. And then I've taken some of our Dazzle Line chain and ran it down the stems. I've glued it right to the stems. But a lovely little prom posy for the girl to carry. And it's just a few little additional accents to an already beautiful bouquet.
Are there any questions for Suzie about the scepter? And Suzie, while we're waiting for those questions to come in, back on your bouquet, you started with a pre-made bow that you had made up. And the question is, do you remember which vendor supplied that ribbon? Does it come from Berwick Offray?
It certainly does. It's Berwick Offray. And if they can tell you which ribbon it was, I might be even able to tell you what the color is.
It was kind of that peachy color, corally color that you had already attached a number of pieces to.
Yep. If this is it right here, it is the Gelato Cantaloupe.
Okay. Kelly, I hope that answers your question.
And
okay, any other questions for Suzie on the scepter?
Here's another little inspiration on a scepter. Again, using the ribbon to really pop the color, using a composite rose where I've inserted the main bloom into the center and then built it around the actual bowl of the scepter, again adding some fun flutters. I think they're just a fun and flirty way to add excitement and texture and movement to any of your prom items. But composite flowers work well too. So a couple other inspiration pieces for you. I've hoped you've been able to follow along and learned a thing or two that you're going to try out when your prom girls come in, and you're going to show them what creative ideas that you have in store for them. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope that you're going to be returning this afternoon to our Selling the Wow webinar. I'll be back this afternoon. Hopefully my voice will be a little bit better. If not, we'll get through it. And I'm going to turn the webinar over to Dan, and he is going to talk marketing to you. So thanks again, and we'll see you later.
Thank you, Suzie. I know you don't feel well, but I appreciate you being a trooper and taking care of this for everybody.
Absolutely.
There's a tip: hot water with lemon and honey for your throat.
Awesome. I'm going to try that. Thank you.
So we're going to pop up a quick poll. We're interested in what your thoughts are about the upcoming prom season. If you're optimistic or not, but we're always looking to get a feel or gauge of the market. So if you'll take a couple of seconds and answer the poll, and while we do that, we'll do a couple of things here behind the scenes to get my screen up. We're going to talk about how to work with folks on doing fundraisers, but while you're taking the poll, we'll get our things ready here behind the scenes. Okay, so we need, no, show my you're talking about. Make sure you know what you're talking about, and then be prepared and have fun as you're doing this. You can have a lot of fun with fundraisers. You're working with a lot of different people. This is my definition of marketing, and you'll see as we go through this how this is impacted on in the fundraising. The key is doing things that can be measured, and there's no question you're going to be able to measure the success of these different fundraising tips as far as it comes to marketing proms and marketing your business. So here's some things that we know. Every school in the country is raising money for something. There is always a shortage of funding, whether it's in tax dollars or grants or whatever it is. But no matter what the school is looking for, there is always a shortage of money. So you've got the door open to you to work with people to say, here, what can I do to help you accomplish your goals and grow more? We'll come back over and go over some more of these a little bit in a little more detail as we go through here. But the key is to know that every school in the country is looking to raise money. Let me jump ahead here too. One of the things to keep in mind is that every fundraising activity always has a shortage of revenue, and that's what causes them to put together a fundraising committee. So if they're wanting to put in a new football field, or they're wanting to buy instruments for the band, or to go on a trip, or to build something new, there is always a shortage of funds for this. The simple part about the fundraising committee is that they can begin to get together and look at what do they need to do to help reach their goal. So there's a few things that are easy. So whatever the project is, and I'll reference a project that I was involved in with our school band a number of years ago. We went to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. So we put together a budget. There was a group of us that looked at how much money we thought we were going to need to be able to take the entire band manager, chaperones, all of that type of stuff to New York City from Cincinnati to be in the band in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. There's some quick things that we knew. We could look at our history and look at, okay, we can sell magazines. How much money are we going to raise from that? We had history on that. We can sell candy. We've got a history on that. We can figure out how much we might make on that. We went through the easy things, T-shirts, popcorn, car wash, those types of things. It was easy to come up with a basic amount of money that we knew that we were going to be able to have. We also then were able to take a look at what our shortfall was going to be, so we knew how much money that we had to raise. That's where a fundraising committee really gets into being its challenges. We can sit around and talk about how it is or what we might do to sell more candy or more magazines or more popcorn. But one of the key things is also to look at what are new ideas. And this is where you come in. As a fundraising committee, they're looking for how many streams of revenue can they generate to reach their goal. So you can look at providing them an idea that it's unlikely that they have ever seen or heard or talked about in the past. We give you an introduction letter on our website to be able to send to the school. But here's the biggest difference. The biggest difference is often folks want to be able to go to the school and sell. And at that point, you're often told, no, I'm sorry, if we do this for you, we have to do it for everybody else. And one of the things about becoming part of a fundraising group is that you're not just somebody else. You're now part of that group. You're part of that committee. You're not asking to be invited. You're actually being invited and expecting for you to do your part to help them reach their goal. So I talk about this example when we did ours a number of years ago with our band. We had a gentleman approach us, send us a letter that he wanted to do a fundraiser with us about selling garden mulch. And as a committee, we kind of looked around at each other and said, do you know anything about how we would sell garden mulch? Why is this a good idea? And what we concluded is we didn't understand the idea. So we invited the gentleman from the mulch manufacturer to come to our committee and explain this to us. Your proposal going to the committee is going to be very much the same. When they get a letter from you saying that you want to have a fundraiser to help them meet their goal by selling prom flowers or flowers, this is going to be something most of them are not going to understand. At that point, you're going to probably get an invitation back from the committee to say, we don't understand it, come to our next meeting and share with us how it is we might be able to reach our goal, and how are you going to really help us generate a certain amount of money that's going to help us toward this goal. So it's important to look at who are the members of fundraising committees. There are generally two types of people on the fundraising committee. They are the wealthy and the people who are decision makers, people who are the movers and shakers. So one of the things I point out is if you were to sit down and put together the information about growing your business and what types of new customers would you like to attract to your business over the next year or so, these are two types of people that you would want to attract business from. You would want the wealthy. They appreciate the value of flowers and price is not going to be a challenge for them. And people who make decisions, who aren't hemming and hawing over the price. Do I need it? Do I want it? Is it too much? But these are people who know how to make decisions. So let me go back real quick to about the letter. When you send the letter to the fundraising committee, make sure you send at least 20 letters, and you send them to anybody who might be involved in the prom committee or prom fundraising in any way. Send them to the principal, the counselors, the coaches. Find out who the advisors are. Find out who the students are at the fundraising committee or in the prom committee. You don't want to send one that gets screened by a gatekeeper in the office who looks at it and views it as being unimportant and throws it away, but you want to have 20 letters there so that make sure that it gets to the meeting. So you've sent your letter, they've looked at it, they don't really understand what it's about, and so they've now sent you an invitation and said, we'd like you to come to the next fundraising committee meeting and explain to us how this will work. So first thing you need to make sure you do is you bring samples. Find out how many members, men and women, are on the committee and bring extras. But make sure you're bringing corsages and boutonnieres so they can see exactly your quality, your style, your beauty, so there's no question. You're going to give them to these and they're going to take them home. They're going to show them around to people that they know. So you want to make sure that you're bringing samples. You want to make sure that you're giving them something specific. I always get the same question. Should I give them a percentage or should I give them a specific amount? My answer is a percentage. You can do whichever one you want. You have to do what's comfortable in your business. But I like a percentage because it allows me to drive the sale up. If somebody is there and we want to keep adding things, as you saw Suzie do in her handheld pieces, you want to keep adding the River of Diamonds, you want to add more bling to it. One of the things is as you're adding it, you can say to them, you know this is going to increase the contribution that we're making toward your fundraising thing. So you can do whatever. Both of them work. Personally, I'm a percentage kind of person. So when you get there, you want to be able to spell out the specifics. So I'm just going to use some random numbers. let's say that you know that last year you sold 100 corsages and boutonnieres for the prom at this particular school. You know that that generated $5,000 for the sake of a number. So what you're able to say to them is, here's what I'm willing to do for you. If we look at last year's numbers, we're going to generate the same amount of money. Let's say we know we're going to generate $5,000, and we're willing to contribute, again, for the sake of a random number, 10% back to you. So this fundraiser has a minimum opportunity to gain you $500 toward your fundraising goal. Make sure your numbers are realistic, and if anything, underestimate, don't overestimate. Don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. It's a lot better to underpromise and overdeliver. But make sure you can quantify by showing them the type of work you do, the number of sales that you have, and the types of things that you're doing, so that they can understand, okay, this contribution is likely to be $500, $200, $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is, but that you can quantify the numbers for them. Here's an example of someone in Lexington, Massachusetts. Not an inexpensive place in the country to live, but they offered a special to the local private high school where they gave back $1.50 for each corsage and 75 cents for each boutonniere. One of the things to keep in mind is, don't forget the private schools. Everybody looks at the public schools around them, but private schools are all raising money for the events that are going on at their schools because they're not receiving tax dollars. So don't forget to look for the private schools in your area. But here's an example of one that did very well, giving back $1.50 to each corsage and 75 cents on each boutonniere. Excuse me. So again, make sure that you're sending the letter to multiple people. Don't forget the teachers, the students. Make sure you're approaching more than one school. I had one florist tell me that there were 8 schools in their county. They sent the letter to all 8 of them, and in one day they got an answer back for 6 of them. Create a unique proposal. So if we're talking about a corsage, a boutonniere, and that third item, maybe what you do is you have a small percentage for the corsage, a small percentage for the boutonniere, but a bigger percentage for that third item that helps create more momentum and more reason for them to do it. Make sure your highlights are all put together. Don't forget, it is about them. It is not about you. So it's much more about them and helping them reach their goal. You're going to generate a lot of business and a lot of success for this, but make sure that you are helping them to reach their goal more than it is about helping you to reach your goal. So one of the things to take a few minutes and look about is begin to identify specifically who you're going to send these letters to. Who are the people on the prom committee? Find out who those people are. Who are the faculty members? Who are the advisors? Who are other people that are either members of the committee or influential? Maybe it's the sports boosters or just other people you know that are influential in the school that might help you get an introduction to the prom committee to be able to show these things. One of the things to keep in mind about these committees and why they're so impactful is 10% of every group is really, really passionate about their organization. So going back to our example, there was over 300 kids in our band. There were 30 that no matter when the doors opened, no matter what was going on, they were completely committed to everything that went on with the band. So you find the group in your school and realize that 10% of these people are going to be super sellers for you. So without adding any people to the payroll, you have now picked up a large group of people to be extra salespeople for you. So in our example, you would have picked up 30 free salespeople. Now the other thing to keep in mind is that there's another 10% that's even more passionate than the students, and that's the parents. I can assure you that when it came to fundraising, I raised considerably more money than my daughter did, who was one of those 10% of the people who was there every time the door opened, but she really was passionate about it. But what you get is you get students talking to students saying, here, make sure you get your prom corsage for us, get your prom flowers from this flower shop, because they're going to help us accomplish this goal, help us accomplish this, we're going to do this, we're going to New York, we're getting the new basketball court, whatever those things are. Parents are also talking to parents of other children who go to other schools. Really doesn't make any difference what school they come from. If they come in there and they tell you that they're supporting this fundraiser, then you're generating money that helps go to that. So in our case, you would have picked up 60 free salespeople that would have helped drove business for you and your prom sales for that during that season. One of the things you want to look at is what are the fundraiser groups. Often people look to the sports groups. They're large, they're organized, they're successful. However, in our school, you would not have wanted to talk about the football team, for example, because we had an awful football team. Our band had been everywhere. Rose Parade, Thanksgiving Day Parade, Disney's Christmas Parade, New Year's parades. Our band had been everywhere. One of the other things we learned from the tux companies is don't forget that you don't have to just have one organization. You can deal with more than one organization. So what are the clubs? What are the other organizations, both in the school and out of the school? So here's an example. Let's say you want to help raise money for breast cancer. That can be one of your organizations that you're going to donate money for, and have those parents talking to their kids and the people that they know to make sure that they come and help raise money for your organization to raise money for breast cancer. Jerry Lewis's Muscular Dystrophy Association, the local Kiwanis. You could bring in any number of groups that can help you raise money that you have contacts with. They don't specifically have to be about the schools. The schools are probably going to be more passionate because it's their prom, but you're just looking for people who will work with you, that you will help them reach their fundraiser goal, and they're going to drive people back into your flower shop for you. So here's an interesting opportunity. This story was told to me a couple of years ago, where there was a young man that worked at a tux shop who was did a great job, and he had a checklist for every young man who came in, and he went through the checklist. You have your socks, you have your shoes, da-da-da-da-da-da, and on his list was, do you have the girls' flowers? And there were a number of young men that had not taken care of the flowers yet. So one of the things he did is he went down to the local flower shop and said, hey, I'm sending these people to you. I want to continue to do this, but can I get compensated for this? Of course, the flower shop said yes. He kept sending people down there. They put together a spiff or a commission for him, and it worked out very well for him. So part of what we want to be able to do is to learn from these things. So since this is a good idea, but those young men who have that checklist are very rare, now back to what we've shared in other ones about going to where the fish are, get out of your store. Go to the tux shops and talk to them and offer them the same opportunity. If you send folks into our shop who specifically use your name from your shop, then we will offer you some type of a commission. Now, I don't recommend that you do this specifically to the tux shop, because then the shop or the manager gets the revenue, and what you want is the individual salespeople to get the revenue. One of the things you know is some people are more motivated than others. You're going to get more referrals from some more than others, and those that do give you more referrals, you want to make sure that they get rewarded with more money. You can do this with a commission, a spiff, gift cards, gas cards, iTunes cards. You can do any number of things to compensate them, to help them push people into your flower shop. It's not necessarily about how you get them there, but how many more people are you getting there all the time. So make sure you're rewarding individual people and not just the store by itself. Here's an example of the fundraiser school letter, which is on our website. It's in the marketing support section. You're going to want to change this to make sure that it tweaks for you. It is a Word document, so feel free to edit it or just use it as a format to start with. But it gives you some things to keep in mind to be able to share with them before you send this letter. Now, a couple of follow-up things. After you've conducted the fundraiser, actually I think this is my last slide, it is. After you've conducted the fundraiser, one of the things that you want to do is to go to Kinko's or someplace like that and get the giant, what I call the Tiger Woods check, the big giant check that shows the amount of money being given to the school and your name of your flower shop up in one of the corners really, really big. So at the beginning, when you're starting your fundraising activity, contact the school newspaper. Go down there, maybe do an interview about the fundraiser, how it's going to help the school. Get a picture taken of you and some of the students about what the fundraising activity is going to be. We know that kids going through the school papers, the first thing they do is they look at the pictures, and they're looking for pictures of themselves or pictures of their friends. This they're going to do for free. This is a story. It's not going to cost you. This isn't an ad. But then afterwards, after you've done the fundraiser, don't just write a check and put it in the mail and send it to them. Get the big check. Spend a little bit of money for it. Take it down there. Get the picture taken from the school newspaper, presenting it to the prom committee or to the specific organization that, again, shows the amount of money you raised and your shop. You also want to take this article and this picture and put it up in your store. You want to let everybody know who comes into your store that you support fundraising activities. It's not necessarily just giving donations, which is a whole different thing that we do often to support our community, but here's working for your community that has a benefit for both of you. A benefit for you that's going to be an increased sales, and a benefit for them that helps them reach their sales goal for their fundraising activity. Okay, I've run through a lot of information. What kinds of questions do you have for me? Ashley, you got anything? Well, a couple of things in closing. We have another one this afternoon. The marketing portion is going to be very different. We're going to ask you to share your ideas with everybody else about things that work in your market. So we're going to make you the star of the show. You won't be listening to me this afternoon. I'll be listening to you and sharing ideas. Also, tell your friends about the webinars. We put together a lot of energy and effort to this. We're having less than 100 people attend each one. We'd certainly like to get that number up. We know that we can have up to 1,000 people on our webinars. So help spread the word and get lots of information out to all of your friends so that we can have a lot larger attendance here. Also, let me share something with you, especially for those in Florida. On March the 8th, we're doing an all-day educational event at King's Wholesale. We're going to have a 1.5-hour prom fashion show, followed by two 2-hour hands-on design classes, and there's also a 2-hour marketing seminar going on at the same time. There's also a design contest where you bring 3 things if you want to enter the contest: a corsage, a boutonniere, and that third ladies accessory. There's door prizes. There's a lot of things going on at King's that day. It's March the 8th. We're going to start at 8:30 in the morning. Our featured designers are Suzie Kostick, AIFD, and Anthony Swick, AIFD, as well as the entire Fitz design team will be there. Get a chance to meet the folks who are putting together your products, you're talking to on the phone, you're hearing from, that are shipping your orders. This is going to be a great day, and this is our opportunity to give back in our community so that the florists in and around us can have just tremendously successful prom seasons. So thank you very much. If there aren't any questions, we'll look forward to seeing you this afternoon. Thank you.